Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome into today's show. I'm so excited that you are here. Father Anthony and I had so much fun recording today's episode. We had talked about some of our segment ideas for weeks, and we finally got to do it. So much fun. I hope that you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment below your favorite part. Today's show is brought to you by Ave Explores, the great podcast from Ave Maria Press. Enjoy. Y salud! Mi nombre es Schroll y aquí es Forte Catholico!
Yay!
Yeah. That's the strangest reaction to what I did. I don't know how I thought you'd react, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, I really had no idea how to react. Like, I don't know any Spanish, which I assumed that was. And so, you know what? Yay.
It was something along the very loosely translated, because I don't know all the Spanish words. I used no help. That was just my 7th and 8th grade Spanish helping out. And I said something to the effect of greetings and salutations. I'm Taylor Schroll. Welcome to Forte Catholic.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like the greetings and salutation things has just been a fun little joke that we've been doing at the beginning of the show. And I wanted to change it up a little bit. So
Good.
That's how today's going. As we are recording this, like every time you listen to Forte Catholic, you are listening from the future. We are recording this on Election Day.
Yeah.
And Father Anthony, we just celebrated the 4-year anniversary of Forte Catholic just a few weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that this whole train of making Catholicism fun again started around the same time that I stole that logo or that motto from, right?
Yes, exactly.
So 4 years ago, we had Election Day. So on I think it was episode 6 of the show. Like, we were only in for a few weeks, and I had to do a show. This was back in the day, I was live on the radio. You didn't hear it in the future. You heard it in the radio, or you most likely didn't hear it at all, because who are we kidding? No one listened to episode 6 on podcast. So I was live on the air 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock on election night. So while people are getting news about, what's happening, right, I'm on the radio being like, hello. And we called that show Hope on Election Night. And, hindsight is 2020. And I know that's a strange phrase after this year happened. But looking back, I can say with 100% certitude that episode did not work, because people don't have hope and haven't had hope in many years.
It's hard to remember what were things like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, because this year has been forever.
Right. Like, we had lives before February.
Yeah.
So I did the whole thing, Hope on Election Night, and it just didn't work. Like, I guess no one, or it worked and not enough people listened. Maybe that's the thing.
Right. But it's funny because, I remember it was my first assignment, the first fall of my first assignment as a priest, and I didn't really pay much attention to politics or anything. And I remember waking up in the morning being like, oh, that's surprising. Oh, well. And then just went about my day. And I feel like everyone knows what's going on. Everyone's freaking out about everything. It feels very different than 4 years ago for me.
It's really strange. It really is. But I do have some good news, and I can't find it. Oh, here it is. I found it. So we're not going to try to give people hope today, because I saw this thing yesterday, Father Anthony, that over the history of mankind, right? Whether it was a kingdom or a country or a large group of people, obviously those things change over the years, but that the average let's see if I can get the numbers right. Hold on. Let me do some quick math. 2020 minus, 200. The average time that a country or a nation or a group of people stays before they dissolve and aren't a society anymore.
Yeah.
The average over the course of human history is 245 years. 2020 minus 1776 is 244. So we're 1 year away from the collapse of all of society.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a slow decline. It's going to be a gradual slope into darkness, and might as well enjoy the ride as we're going down.
So this is the opposite of hope on election night. And Father Anthony just said it's going to be a gradual decline into darkness. So I was watching Saturday Night Live this weekend. So like obviously the last Saturday Night Live before the election.
Yeah.
And they're known to be a little on the left. We'll put it that way.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
John Mulaney was the host, and I've seen some Catholics sharing a post that's similar. That's like, no matter what happens today, or on election day, whenever you're listening to this, yesterday, a week ago, 4 years ago, because you're listening to this in 4 years. Hello, really in the future. So John Mulaney was hosting, and he was like, essentially, we're having an old guy competition on Tuesday, and we're going to pick between old guys, and either we'll have the same old guy or a different old guy. And no matter who's elected, not much will change in our country. And I was like, that's the most hopeful thing that I've heard, a lot of Catholics are like, no matter what happens, Jesus is still Lord, Jesus is still King, which, like, yes, that takes solace. I take solace in that too, but John Mulaney's was fun here. So I enjoyed that.
See, just keeping the hope thing up, what I preached about 4 years ago was no matter who gets elected, we're all going to die eventually. So who cares?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So
that's the third way to look at that.
Your homily 4 years ago belongs on this show because it's not really hopeful at all.
It does, yes.
It's just very memento mori. But we do have some good news today. We're going to do a segment here on our little election podcast here. We're going to do a segment that the listeners have come to enjoy, and we haven't done it in a few weeks. We just started a few months ago. My friend Matt Nelson, who's in my dad's DM, shout out to the dad's DM, because they make me do that. They not that publicly. They privately shame me in the group that I don't talk about them enough. So this is it, boys. This is the last time, but I've talked about you now. I've given you 30 seconds of the show. But Matt's a good dude, and he was like, I was like, I want to do something. I was talking about chicken soup for the soul. I started reading it again. Like, it was just really positive. It helped me in quarantine. And he was like, you should do chicken soup for the Schroll. And I'm like, you're a genius. So what this segment is just happy stories. It could be about the show, from the show, not about the show, like from our personal lives, things that happened to us, other stories that just were uplifting, because, if you're listening to this on the day after the election, no matter who won, you might need a little bit of hope. So This is how we're going to do it. And it probably won't work because it didn't 4 years ago, but we're going to try to make you smile anyway. So we're going to start off with a guy named Sam, which I think I just realized. So I have known two separate facts my whole life. You know how sometimes you know facts and then you don't put them together ever?
Okay.
I know that Taylor is my name. That is a thing that I'm aware of.
Good.
And that Taylor can be a boy's name because I am a boy, and it can also be a girl's name because Taylor Swift is a girl.
Correct.
My wife's name is Sam, or Samantha, right?
I'm so proud of you. You're doing great.
She is a girl.
Yes. Awesome. Keep it going.
And there's also can be Sams that are boys.
Correct.
So I have realized separately that our names were by gender. Like they could go for either gender, right?
Yeah.
I never realized that all the adults in my house could either be a man or a woman with our names. I just never realized that. I always recognized it separately and not together. And that's really strange.
I just thank you for that glimpse into the mind of Taylor Schroll. That was a beautiful journey.
Thank you.
I am a boy, but some people are girls.
So this came from a boy named Sam. I think he's a man, but boy sounded funny. So I don't get these emails ever, which is why we're doing a whole segment around it, because someone said something nice to me.
Aw, good.
So very rare. So Sam, I'm going to butcher his name, and I did ask permission to share this, so I'm not doxing him, as the children say.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam, I might not even be doxing him if I didn't ask permission, because I'm going to butcher his last name. Cherasso? Awesome. Cheraso. I'm going to pronounce it like the singer Cher. Cherasso.
That's the correct pronunciation.
Obviously. So, Taylor, first off, I finally listened to every single episode on your podcast.
Whoa.
Please respond, Father Anthony.
Whoa. There's audiobooks out there. There's hobbies. You can have hobbies in your life. You can do things. If you're still listening, which you have to be, you're obviously listening, Sam, Take a walk without headphones in your ears. Try to do something else. I'm worried about you, man.
So here's I get where you're coming from. It is shocking, and I can see the stats on like who's listening to which podcast episodes, right? And like I don't look at the first few,
No.
but like Sam is one of the few people who has heard the Hope on Election Night episode.
Wow, what a journey for Sam.
He went back and listened to that. But here's the thing: he's not doing it randomly or on walks. This will give a little bit of insight. I think it is Sam.
Okay.
It took me a little over a year to do, which good for you. Listening most days 4 to 5 hours at work. So this isn't during playtime.
Okay, yeah.
So I love Sam, but I just realized that I'm worried that there's a possibility his employer will hear this and Sam will no longer have a job.
Like, is he a brain surgeon? Like, how focused does he need to be for his job?
He lives in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't think they have brain surgeons there.
Maybe, I don't know.
So this is the big news. You ready for this? Not him getting out of purgatory by listening to every episode.
Right.
He said, I converted to Catholicism this year. How cool is that?
There you go, Sam. Welcome to the club.
And then he writes, and I quote, whoop, whoop.
That is the correct response.
And here's the thing. Me, so that's me, your co-host, that's you, and you're a boy. And there are some girls too. And guest, she says, your co-host and guest, and in parentheses, and my wife, of course, who I'd like to say has not made an appearance on the show, have helped me find and guide my path as I begin my life in Catholicism. And I read this and I'm like, hold on. This show that very obviously doesn't work, because I did a whole show on hope and everybody was less hopeful. This little show where we just kind of come on and make jokes and do dumb stuff. Like you and I later this show, we are going to do a segment where we give ourselves like role-playing game attributes for our spiritual life.
I'm really excited for it.
And we'll get more into that later, but on a show that we do stuff like that, we helped this guy's Catholic life.
Yay!
we played a small role in helping him become Catholic and helping him in that journey. Because like a lot of people aren't Catholic. They come through RCIA, and the following year, I think the stats are somewhere like 50 to 60% are not practicing Catholics the next Easter, which is sad, right? Because I think there's a lot of reasons for that. There's obvious reasons like, they did it so they could get married and then they don't really care anymore. Or like RCIA is a big community. Like they're all learning together. They're meeting weekly. They're growing intellectually. They're growing as a community. And then they're just released into the parish. There's not that community. There's not that, consistent learning, consistent community. And they're just like, meh, and they leave. So like, that's, a sad thing to mention here in our very positive segment.
Yes.
But he says that it was great, but a difficult RCIA journey. I had severe health issue beginning of the year, and then COVID hit, causing my journey to take a bit of a bump. Luckily, I recovered quickly and was able to get back to my journey in RCIA, and I was welcome into the church in June. So now I have all this pressure that all of our episodes between now and next June need to keep this person Catholic.
I think actually there's no pressure, because you know how the shows have gone, and this guy became Catholic, and like he's heard so many episodes about you talking about being Catholic, and you have pulled no punches. So it's not like he has any kind of like false ideas of what this journey is like. So I think you're fine. I think you can just chill. You can coast for a whole year, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that convert are like, Catholicism is shiny and perfect. And then you listen to my show and you're like, wow, this is hard.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get your point. That's very positive of you to say. He said, I just want to thank you for everything you do for the church. You're welcome. And creating a solid podcast. Not great, just solid.
Yeah.
I hope one day I can buy you a beer and talk sports and religion. Being caught up makes my weeks way longer now that I have to wait for an episode. Like this person is just building up my ego, and I there's a part of me that thinks that this is written by Girl Sam, my wife, just to make me feel good. Because I couldn't find this Sam on social media. But Sam Sciarappa, if you're on social media, let me know. I believe you. Okay. Congratulations on becoming a nonprofit as well. Working on getting some extra cash to donate. I'd love a shout out though. Well, Sam Sciarappa, huge shout out.
You got a whole freaking segment, Sam. Congratulations.
Oh, you did.
No, that's awesome.
I sent back some things, and then he responded. You get brought up again, okay? Specifically this time. He says, that'd be awesome if you made your way up to Cleveland. I said something to the effect like, whenever humans are allowed to travel again, maybe I'll come up to Cleveland.
Yeah.
He said, then you'll be close enough to visit Pittsburgh's okayest priest.
This guy.
That's you.
Yeah.
So he even knows the inside jokes because, let's be honest, Sam has listened to more episodes than you have. So Sam and I might have a better friendship than you and I
You
do.
are actually better friends than you. Yeah, absolutely. That's, yeah.
And then here's how he ends it. Other than take care, Sam, this is the last sentence. Just started listening to Clerically Speaking to fill the void, and I'm really enjoying it.
Amazing.
So, Clerically Speaking is not worth listening to unless you've listened to every episode of Forte.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody knows, it's Sam.
For real. And what's that last name again?
Sam, Sriracha. Sam Sriracha.
Sriracha. Okay, you've got a story for us too here in our chicken soup for the Schroll segment. What you got?
Yeah. So the last few weeks, Sunday nights, I go over to my friend's place. They got a lovely little family, 2 little girls, 1 little boy, and we get together when the kids go to bed, and we play D&D because we're a bunch of nerds. So we do the whole role-playing game thing.
Okay, so that's Dungeons and Dragons. It's a role-playing game. We'll probably get more into what that means in the final segment. But
right. So we do that, but a lot of times I stay at their house, and I've known this family for a long time. I've been friends with them all for a long time, and it's just nice to be in a house with a family. And so in the morning, the kids go off to school, the other kids being babysat and everything. The wife, she went off to do something, and my buddy and I, we just played Rocket League. We played video games for a while that morning. He gets a call from his wife saying, you have to send money to the kids right now because it's their book fair. So he sends money to the book fair. He's like, what, like $20? I'm like, yeah, sure. That sounds like how much do kids' books cost? I don't know. That's not information I know. And he's like, okay, they'll probably get this book, and she'll probably get this book, whatever. Later that day, their middle child came back with 2 books. One for her little brother, who's like not even 2, and one for her older sister. And she said, I couldn't get the book I wanted, but I knew that they would like these books so much. I was like, that's amazing. She spent all of her money on books for her siblings. She's in kindergarten. I would have never have done that.
Of course you wouldn't.
And like
that's why Nicholas Sciarappa is so broken as a person.
It is. Like, I wouldn't even have bought books. They usually sell like cool like pencils and other stuff at book fairs. I would spend all that money on myself. So I was very touched by that.
So I love how you were very touched by it. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
But all I heard, and now I actually am going to dock someone, all I heard of that story was Carl Stuvek is a cheapskate and doesn't care about his children. Love you, Carl.
It was definitely, neither of us knew how much books cost. So
yeah, it's definitely the father in both of you.
Yeah, we're like, I don't know, $20. That's good enough for a book. Count on their kids.
I wouldn't have known either. Carl, love you, man. That is a great story.
Yeah.
Guys, do not go anywhere. In our final segment, we're going to do the role-playing game thing. But right now, we're going to do something we haven't done in quite some time, Father Anthony. We're going to take a break. We've done that recently. But when we come back, we're going to be talking to a person who wrote a book. We haven't had a guest in forever, Mark Shea. And I didn't even realize that we were doing this show on this day, but we're talking about the church's best kept secret, Catholic social teaching. Don't go anywhere. Mark Shea will be with us right when we come back. As Catholics, we believe we are united to the communion of saints, the holy men and women eternally worshiping God in heaven. Saints are not fairy tale figures or cartoon caricatures of holiness, but real men and women who lived real lives with struggles, sinfulness, and sorrow, but also with resolve and deep faith for the love of God fully. There's a thin veil between this world and eternal life, and through that thin veil, we can learn about those who lived lives of heroic virtue and call upon them for support, guidance, inspiration, and encouragement as we strive to grow closer to Christ. Check out the next series in Avi Explores podcast, The Saints, where a host and my friend Katie Praise-John McGrady and a variety of great guests explore the role of saints in the life of the church and why they are important. We will look at how we can grow in friendship with the saints who represent a variety of cultures, experiences, backgrounds, lifestyles, abilities, and races, and most especially reflect on how we too are called to be saints. I've mentioned so many times on the show before that saints are a big hole in my knowledge of Catholicism. I've been enjoying listening to this new series, and I hope that you guys too. So check out the Ave Explorers podcast and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the new and exciting episodes. You can also sign up for all the free content at AveMariaPress.com or by following Ave Maria Press on social media. Ave Explorers, everyday faith for everyday people. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll. That's still Pittsburgh's okayest priest. And we are joined today by a guest who I have known of for quite some time, and who is the guest that I was like, you know what? We've had a 3-month hiatus from having guests on, but this man's going to break the streak, and we'll see if that was a good idea or not. And I'll let you all decide. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Mark Shea is here today.
Okay.
Maybe the reason I don't have guests isn't because I decided to not have them, but because no one said yes after they heard how I treat them. But Mark Shea is our guest today. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we mentioned earlier that we were recording this on Election Day, and you wrote a book, and we didn't even realize that we had booked this on Election Day. But thank God now the election is over. But I still thought talking about your book would be interesting. I'm holding it up now. It is called A Primer on Catholic Social Teaching, the Church's Best Kept Secret, which, man, I have to give you props just for the marketing value. Like writing a book called The Catholic Church's Best Kept Secret. Like, that's great marketing. Like, you must be filthy rich now after all these years. So.
Yes. Well, nothing electrifies people like primers on Catholic social teaching.
I think it's the second part that I'm complimenting. It's the Church's Best Kept Secret.
I tell you, there was never another title for it. It was the title that I gave it the moment I started working on it, and it never changed.
Because I think a lot of times when people think the Church's Best Kept Secret, they think like a Tom Hanks movie and he's breaking into the Vatican archives, and you're like, no, it's Catholic social teaching.
It's Catholic social teaching. That's right. Yeah. And the reason that it's a secret is the reason that pretty much anything about Catholic teaching is a secret. It's not because the church keeps it secret. It's because it's not that the church's teaching is confusing. It's that we're confused. And so Catholic social teaching is out there. There's a big fat book called The Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Catholic Church.
Not as good marketing.
It's not a book that you're going to curl up with on a Saturday afternoon. But the thing is that we don't get our Catholic social teaching from the church. What we do is we get all of our thoughts about how to organize our common life tend to come to us from Rush Limbaugh or Rachel Maddow or that guy at the water cooler or this book I read once whose name I can't remember, or
it was
significant
Mark Shea. That's who.
You're right, or a significant dream that I once had. I mean, what happens with the church's teaching over and over again is people have their own theories about how to organize life, and then if they're Catholic, what they tend to do is that they then go to those bits and pieces of the church's teaching that they like and grab them and use them to accessorize their politics, their views on culture, their thoughts about what we need to do about those people over there. Very rarely what happens is people go to the church first and say, what does the church teach? And then how do I conform my life to the gospel? People want the gospel to tell them you are awesome already and you don't have to change. And that's
Jesus didn't even say that to his friends.
Oddly, Jesus begins by saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. He does not begin by saying, fantastic.
I came to die for you because you're all doing great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so what the church's best kept secret does. And by the way, the title is The Church's Best Kept Secret, a Primer on Catholic Social Teaching, just so people don't go look in the alphabetical order in the wrong place. So
it's very confusing, Mark, because a primer is at the top.
See, it's true, and I will have a word with my publisher about that someday.
What's interesting though is if you open the book, it's the way you're saying it.
Well, and there it is. So
we're gonna spend the entire segment
just working out the
title. Has this been published yet? Am I actually holding a copy?
It is actually published. It came out on the 21st. And one of the things that's interesting, this is just an aside, but one of the things that's interesting about Catholic social teaching is, on the one hand, it has its foot in eternity, so it's always drawing on the tradition. It's always looking to the past. But on the other hand, and this is unique to Catholic social teaching, what it's also doing all the time is responding to what's happening right now. The Gospels, the New Testament, don't have a lot to say about embryonic stem cell research. And they haven't really addressed the use of nuclear weapons because these things are things that happen in the 20th century. So Catholic social teaching is unique because it develops and is now developing much faster than other aspects of Catholic teaching because it has to respond to what's going on right now. And so the irony of this book is that I wrote this book and I published it on September 21st. And on October 3rd, 1 month ago, like a week and a half after I published this book, Pope Francis wrote a new social encyclical, published it. It's like, it's out of date already, So the next printing we're going to be putting in Fratelli Tutti, which is perhaps the social encyclical with the funniest title ever published.
That's what I'm trying to say.
All English speakers hear that and they immediately think tutti frutti.
So we've had a sign of good marketing with the title of your book, so not so great marketing with the compendium thing, and then we've got just, I don't know, strange marketing with Fratelli Tutti.
Fratelli Tutti, yeah, it's just like it's an encyclical and it's a gelato cone. Yes. But yeah. So anyway, so I wrote the book. I tell a story at the beginning of the book. Kind of summarizes the problem that we face. I'm writing to the American Church. But this is something that the book is something that I hope can speak to people all over the world. I spoke at a parish one time. They asked me to come and talk about Catholic social teaching. And so I did. And as I stood up at the podium, the room was really starkly divided. Over on this side of the room, there was the Peace and Justice group. And on that side of the room was the pro-life group, and those guys hated each other. and it was like, why are you enemies? You, in the eyes of the church, you are both supposed to be working toward the same goal. You are supposed to be working toward the dignity of the human person. You notice how I cleverly segued here. You need to talk about, as Catholics, we need to respect the dignity of the human person, the common good, subsidiarity, and solidarity. These are the 4 pillars of Catholic social teaching, and these things are supposed to concern anybody who cares about human life, those guys on that side of the room, and anybody who cares about peace and justice and the common good. So why are you guys at war? Why do you think that you are saying the opposite of one another, when in the church's view, all 4 of these pillars are absolutely related? They're all in harmony. They are not in competition with one another. So what gives? That's why I wrote the book, is because so many people in the church And not, by the way, just in the church, people outside the church, people of goodwill, people who are looking in at what Catholics are talking about, people who are trying to figure out, as we're doing right now on this election day, how to order our common life, are struggling with these questions. So what I wanted to do in this book is present these 4 pillars of Catholic social teaching: the dignity of the human person, the common good, subsidiarity, and solidarity, and show how in the church's mind, these 4 things are in harmony, and this is the way to order our common life.
This is the way. So
Yeah.
you have the 4 pillars, and
Right.
as you're talking about them, I'm picturing being on a chair. Where there's
Right.
4 pegs, right? If you
Yeah.
take one out because you're focused just on 1 or 2 or 3, like it starts to get a little less sturdy. And then if you
Right.
split right down the middle and one side has 2 of them, one side has 2 of them,
You
everybody's
don't have
falling
a
over.
chair anymore.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So you're just trying to balancing on stilts, and that's very exhausting. So
Right.
so why don't like essentially you wrote this primer, and then I think everybody should go buy it. The church's best kept secret, a primer on Catholic social teaching by you, Mark Shea. The P, I'm not going to guess what it's for, but I'm going to say Peter.
Wrong. Philip. I'm named for my mother, Phyllis. So.
Oh, I was like, okay. I thought your mom's name was Philip for a second. That was going to completely derail the interview. But
yeah,
we have the 4 pillars, right? So
right.
I simple definitions for me, for people listening, for Father Anthony, because he didn't pay attention in seminary. Like what simple definitions for each 4 of those pillars?
Okay, so the dignity of the human person concerns the fact that we are made in the image and likeness of God. Our dignity as human beings comes from what we are, not from what we can produce, our virtue, the good things or the bad things that we've done. You don't lose your dignity as a human being because you've sinned. You don't lose your dignity as a human being because of the color of your skin, of what religion you are, of if you don't believe in God, guess what? God doesn't care. And so you retain your dignity because you are still made in the image and likeness of God, even if you're an atheist. You don't lose your dignity because you're gay or because you had an abortion or because you don't gain more dignity points by doing good things. Your dignity comes from the thing that you are, which is a human being and made in the image and likeness of God. So as a Christian missionary worker during the Ebola epidemic was asked by somebody on NPR, why are you treating Muslims, animists, non-believers for Ebola? They're not Christian. And her reply was, and this is a perfectly Catholic reply, was, I'm not treating them because they're Christian. I'm treating them because I'm Christian. I'm treating them because these are people made in the image and likeness of God. And it doesn't matter one iota if they don't even believe in God. So that's the first thing. The dignity of the human person comes from what we are, human beings made in the image and likeness of God. The common good, and this is where things get weird because of our politics. What you tend to find is that people tend to look at the 4 pillars and tend to pick out 2 of them as these are the things that I like that accessorize my politics. So when I wrote a series on Catholic social teaching for the National Catholic Register. The first couple of pieces that I wrote on the dignity of the human person, everybody loved those because we care about abortion. And the dignity of the human person is all about, human life is sacred from conception to natural death. But then I talked about the second pillar, the common good, and was immediately accused of being a communist. And the first thing that I wrote was literally nothing but a tissue of quotations, starting with the New Testament, down through the fathers of the church, through medieval theologians, through conciliar teaching, right down to contemporary popes. This is all part of the tradition. This is not Karl Marx. This is John Chrysostom and Basil the Great and Thomas Aquinas and Augustine and all the rest of these guys, right? What the common good means is simply this. If each person is made in the image and likeness of God, then every person is made in the image and likeness of God. And that means every person has a right to the goods of the earth. And therefore, we need to order our common life so that it isn't just rich people and powerful people who get the stuff that they need.
It sounds good to me because I'm not rich or powerful. We've got 2 minutes left and two pillars left. So your challenge now is to do 1 minute for each.
All right, great. So the next pillar is subsidiarity. Subsidiarity has to do with the fact that because we are made in the image and likeness of God, we are to be sacraments to the world. And because we are made in the image and likeness of God, we therefore have to take a personal stake in bearing the blessings of God to the world. So the central lesson that we learn about our gifts, whether spiritual or financial, from St. Paul, is that the chosen are chosen for the sake of the unchosen. So gifts that I have are not for me, they're for you. And that includes, by the way, our money. So that subsidiarity is the people closest to the problem should handle the problem. So if you have a pothole in your parking lot, then you need to fix it. You don't call the White House. If you need a loaf of bread, you don't phone Congress and ask them to send in the 101st Airborne. You go to the store and get the bread. And you only go up the ladder of authority if people closest to the problem can't handle the problem. That's when you appeal, for example. So you go to the store and they don't serve your kind here. So that's when you go to the cops and say they won't serve me because I'm Catholic or I'm Black or I'm Jewish or whatever. So then the law gets involved and you go up a ladder of authority, but you still don't phone the White House. You get the local police involved. And if the local police won't help, then you go higher up the ladder. And so when Rosa Parks tried to get the local police involved, it ended finally with the Civil Rights Act being passed by Congress, but you had to go up the ladder. You don't start at the top of the ladder. So that's
I'm glad you said that, because like you said, like we need to conform our lives to Catholic social teaching. And anytime I have any small problem, I phone my congressman. So I learned something.
Right. Yeah. I can't get my car keys. I can't. But so that's that. And then finally, solidarity has to do with our unity, both as a species, we are all one in Adam, and also with our unity in Christ. So in short, I can't look at you and say, your end of the Titanic is sinking. Too bad for you. And that's solidarity. So it's those four pillars working together that hold up the throne upon which sits Adam. All of us, man and woman, made in the image and likeness of God. That's Catholic social teaching.
Perfect. Mark, you gave us a perfect primer of the primer. So I want everybody to go find it. The Church's Best Kept Secret, a primer on Catholic social teaching by Mark Patrick. What'd you say?
Mark Phillip.
Mark. I was like, was her name Patricia? I got confused. From
Mark Shea.
Mark Shea. There you go. So go get the book, guys. I love this topic, and it's a topic that I need to learn more of. So I'm glad that you were able to join us today. I'm glad you wrote the book, especially at a time right now when, just like your story from the beginning, right at the beginning of the book, everybody's just picking one or two, and to be Catholic, we need to grow in all four of them. So thank you so much for your time. Other than buying the book, how can people get connected with you?
You can find my blog at markpshea.com. And you can buy the book there too. And you can also find me on Facebook once I'm out of Facebook jail. And I'm on Twitter at Shea Ami, Chezami.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And guys, we will be right back. Do not go anywhere. We're in the chilly season, my friends, and that means we all need some new socks. And if you want socks that are going to keep you warm this winter and also make you look stylish as heck, you need new socks from Sockreligious. If you go to fortecatholic.com/socks, you'll be able to get 15% off your next order of great socks that have saints on them and some of our favorite stories from the scriptures. They're so much fun. I own like 4 pairs of them, something like that. They're great. So go to fortecatholic.com/socks to get yours today and 15% off with the code Forte15. Welcome back to Forte Catholic, and I'm going to leave in Father Anthony stroking his beard right before the beginning of this segment. So as promised, I had an epiphany while I was driving in the middle of nowhere. I was driving out to our football stadium where we have football practice, and it is literally in the middle of nowhere, and yet they're still doing construction consistently on this road. Like 8 people drive on this road, and they're like, we need to do construction on here and block 1 lane each way traffic for 20 minutes at a time. But like, there are some times that I could probably ride my bike faster to this place than I could drive. It's unbelievable. But while I was sitting at like the stop where it's literally a 1 lane road where they're letting people go for a mile and we go for a mile, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there in my car, and you mentioned RPGs and playing Dungeons and Dragons earlier, and we had talked about it this day, like the night before I was sitting in my car, and I was like, oh, we should do a role-playing game here on the air where we start off this role-playing game. Yeah. And in any RPG, so that's what role-playing game, that's the acronym. You start off and you have all these different perks and abilities that you can pick, but you have a limited number of resources on what you can pick. Like, you can't start off as like a godlike character. Like, you start off and you're like, you can have a little strength and a little agility, but that means you have no knowledge or no, like, you're really dumb, you know? Like, you have to pick and choose these things. So, like, for instance, like your RPG of Dungeons and Dragons, like what did you specialize as?
So I'm a paladin. So for me, the big ones are strength, charisma, wisdom. You know, there's other stuff, but for me to be most effective as my class, those are what I need to put my points into.
Right, exactly. So like you had started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I just started playing a new RPG on the Xbox. And I was like, I don't know if I'm doing the right perks. I don't know if I'm doing all this stuff. Because essentially, like, anytime I play a game like that, like, I play as like a mage. Like, I'm going to throw fireballs at people's faces. And do it from a distance so that they can't touch me. So I was like, okay, well, if I was starting the spiritual life today, we're doing the RPG role-playing game where we're going to role-play as good Catholics, because it's the only way that this works is to pretend.
I like this a lot because I have preached tons of times where I have said literally holiness is not like a video game, but today holiness is like a video game.
Exactly. Aspirational holiness is like a video game. So what you and I have done is we have written down the fruits of the Holy Spirit and the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and boy, did that process take a while.
Yes, it took a while. We definitely didn't have them memorized.
The only people who know these and have them memorized are 8 people at their confirmation, and they're never the ones that the bishop calls on to answer the questions. And then those people all forget by the next day.
Exactly.
Here's what we have. Anytime you're playing an RPG, you have like character traits and then you have perks. So our character traits, we have points that we're going to put towards the gifts of the Holy Spirit: wisdom, understanding, knowledge, counsel, fortitude, piety, fear of the Lord. And we're making this up as we go, but this is just like an example. Like, wisdom would mean that we would know what to do in the right time. There we have choices. We're going to make the right choice. Right. Understanding is like, we understand God. We understand his words. We understand in an RPG, we understand the arcane. It can throw better and faster and stronger fireballs. Counsel, I think in this RPG sense, would be like, we can persuade our way through things. We're very helpful to other people. Fortitude is like, we're just gonna press on. We're like, it's something along the lines of like, if we die, we get to keep going, like it happens in the game, right? piety, like we would get God's help in stuff, I would imagine, because we've
Yeah.
proven to him that we love him. And then fear of the Lord. I don't understand how this really applies, but it's the seventh one and I can't change it.
Okay, cool.
So here's what we're gonna do. We each have 12 points that we can put towards this, and we're gonna take a couple of moments right here, and we're gonna fill it out. And I'm really interested to see. I haven't done it yet. I'm interested to see what my answers are. I'm interested to see what your answers are, and then we'll get to the fruits of the spirit, which are more like the perks, and we'll pick 3 of those.
Mhm.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Go ahead and take your 12 points. And you're going to you can't specialize in all of them. So which ones are you going to specialize? Your time begins now. Okay, so we just decided, we just went through the list and decided which we're going to do. So now we're going to do your idea. So on wisdom, how many points did you get?
So we only have 12 points, but I put a whole 3 into wisdom, because wisdom for me is not just knowing stuff, but knowing how to use the stuff you know. And with being, so I'm just playing like as a priest. That's my character, because that's what I'm most familiar with.
So most priests only have a 2 rating when they start.
If they have any. So let's be honest.
I thought I was making the bad joke.
No, come on now. So as far as like discerning, like what to do with a parish, if someone comes in and wants to talk to you, that's a little bit more another one. But just like knowing how to use your knowledge is so important as a priest. So I'm putting a whopping 3 points in them.
Yeah, and I think just like in role-playing games, the way I play them, and in life, it's like you're presented with a lot of options. You need to pick 1 or 2. You need to pick the best option way to go. I gave it 2 points because I initially had 3, and then I realized I had none of one of the others that I needed. So my next one, I had understanding, because like I used to always be confused by wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, because they just sound like synonyms, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like, I know stuff, Understanding is more like the understanding of God. So I was like, well, I need to start somewhere, and I feel like I can build this up over the years, because like I didn't know anything about faith until I was in college. So I only gave myself 1 point on understanding.
Yeah, so I only gave myself 1 point as well, because you know what? I don't understand a lot right now, and I'm doing just fine. I don't know why God's doing stuff. It makes no sense to me ever. So I'm doing fine with 1. I didn't want it to be 0, so I put 1 for understanding.
All right. So knowledge, what do you got?
Knowledge 1, because knowing stuff is highly overrated. I know a lot of smart people, and it doesn't mean you're going to heaven. So knowledge 1.
So you do know a lot of smart people like me, who's doubly as knowledgeable as you, because I put 2 points.
Yeah.
I like of the 3 about knowing stuff, like I feel like wisdom and knowledge are the most important, because I feel like the more knowledge that you have, you can grow from knowledge into understanding. So I'll be able to put more points there as I grow as an RPG person. RPG Christian. That sounds like a really bad handle, like on Twitter. I'm the RPG Christian because I want to shoot bombs at people I don't agree with. That's what that sounds
exactly.
like. That's not what I meant. But yeah, I put 2 at knowledge because I like knowing things.
Yeah. So counsel, I had 3, because a lot of what I do is counseling people and trying to get counseled by God. Like I would like to be able to go to prayer and know what God's telling me to do better. And then also just so much of my job is like, Father, what should I do? Someone just texted me, Father, can you tell me what to do in this situation? Like even during the show, I got a text message like that. So counsel is going to be important. I put 3 points in counsel.
Well, I did too, because I too enjoy telling people what to do.
Exactly.
But I think like in my like with all the stuff that I've done in youth ministry, like I trained youth ministers for a while, trained people on how to give talks. Now in my job, I counsel people on, hey, this is what you should do on your podcast, and this is how it would sound better, and then I help make it sound better, and then all that sort of thing. So I enjoy counsel and telling people what to do. So I put 3 on fortitude. So like strength and continuing to fight. I feel like this is both one of my greatest strengths and yet biggest weaknesses all at the same time. No matter what happens, I am going to fight through it. I'm going to continue and push on, but I'm not going to be happy about it. It's like, is it really fortitude if I'm pushing through everything and a grumpy person? But also it's not a 7, so I put 3, so it's fine.
So so I'm running out of points here because of my other stuff. I don't want to have anything at 0, so I had fortitude at 1, And it's just gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough for me going through life.
You're
You
a
know,
weak
so
man.
I know. So it just we're gonna hopefully train that one up later.
And as you said, you have some points left. Those keeping track at home, I'm running out.
Yeah, I was saying, like, if I counted it right, you're not doing great.
So I had 0 in the last 2 at the beginning.
Amazing.
Because at the beginning I was like, I don't understand how fear of the Lord works in an RPG, and also not really sure how it works in the real life.
Yeah.
So I gave 0 points to fear of the Lord and only 1 point to piety, and that was begrudgingly because I feel like that's too real for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I ended up putting 2 points in piety because your priest should be at least a little pious. And then 1 point for
Should
fear of the
be,
Lord.
yes.
Right. And then 1 point because I didn't want to have anything as 0. And if in real life, I think fear of the Lord is good. But in this RPG, I only have so many points. So he gets a 1.
All right, so that's it, guys. If you want to play along and like share your answers on social media, you should do that because this is very silly and fun, and this is the kind of stuff that helped Sam become Catholic. So
Yeah.
if you want Sam to stay Catholic, share your answers on social media. Okay, we have one last thing to do. We have to pick 3 perks. We only get 3 perks to start the game with of the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, generosity, gentleness, faithfulness, modesty, self-control, and chastity. So, what 3 did you pick, Padre?
I say, okay, so I picked patience, which, oh my goodness, anyone in ministry, especially priests, you need a lot of patience or else you'll go freaking insane. So I picked that one. Faithfulness, because I make a lot of promises and I need to make sure that I pray every day and that sort of thing. So faithfulness, the other one. And then chastity, because there'd be a lot less problems in the church if more people had chastity. So I'll make sure I have that one.
You really are playing as a priest, and I
Yes.
appreciate that. For me,
No joy or peace, but those ones are good.
well, good, because that's my job to bring joy back into the faith.
Yes.
So I have joy and charity, so love. And I just realized that this also just got really, this is revealing a lot about my spiritual life, and I didn't really mean for it to. But I picked love without gentleness, faithfulness, generosity, patience, kindness, goodness. Like, and that's how I love people. Like, deep down, I love you. It's just not going to look like that on the surface.
Yeah.
So, love, joy, and self-control. And that's the one that's aspirational because I don't have any. And I would like for my character to, because a big part of video games is doing the things you can't do in real life, like having
Yes.
self-control and throwing fireballs at people's faces. So here's the thing, and you've kind of like, we've both kind of mentioned it, like self-control was aspirational for me. A lot of the rest of it was like fairly true to who I am now, but some of it was aspirational. So who do you think is a better person, Father Anthony? You as a human person or your RPG character?
Oh, I think I'm more well-rounded as a human person. So I don't think I'm level 1 in the spiritual life. I feel like this is level 1. I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. I think I'm slightly better in real life.
I think I'm slightly better in real life, but I think a lot of people would say this person's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think it's so funny. Like, I realized a lot that, like, I think the biggest takeaways for me is, like, I don't really care about fear of the Lord, so I think I need to talk about that to God. I guess I'm not scared enough of him. Begrudgingly put it into piety. That's not a surprise to me or anyone listening. I think and then the insight about loving people without any of the other things that are associated with love. Your biggest takeaway, Father, before we end this thing?
Yeah, it was like looking at the list and thinking about the things that I want more of. Like, I do want more joy. I do want more peace. Sometimes I feel like the other things are more important, but like things like joy and peace would like inflame the rest of my spiritual life. So like just look at the list, like, man, I want to focus more on these things. Like, I want to be wiser. I've only been a priest for 4 years. I like to get better at that sort of stuff. So it was interesting because these are all things that are given to us in baptism and confirmation, right? So on some level, we have all these, but just seeing them written out again for the first time, probably since my confirmation, was a good reminder of things to keep asking the Lord to stir up and deflame in me.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I'm happy we did this. It was supposed to just be silly, and it ended up meaning quite a bit to me. So you guys participate in this. Write it down. Share your answers with us. We'll talk about it next week on the show. God bless you guys. God bless you, Father Anthony, the God that I don't fear. I hope that He blesses you.
Amen.
I'll be back next week. See ya. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. I hope that you enjoyed it, because we sure as heck enjoyed recording it. If you would like to support what Forte Catholic is doing and our ministry here, you can always go to fortecatholic.com/donate and leave a very generous donation, whether that's $1 or $1 million. It's all very generous, like the whole widow's mite story from the old Jesus. But also, if you liked what you heard today, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. I'll be back next week. Bye.